right, so welcome back. Today, yesterday you guys talked about using a ruler. Today you're going to be talking about centimeters and meters and how we estimate and measure using those. So make sure that for today's work that you have your ruler. Okay, it doesn't have to be that big, but you will need to have it nearby. Okay, so if you need to pause the video to go make sure you have your ruler, just do that right now. So what are centimeters? Well, basically they are a metric unit. So they are a unit that we use to measure length, so how long something is. And it can be used to measure the length, which is how long something is, how wide something is, or how tall something is. Okay, but normally they're not very big things. So some of the things that you can measure in centimeters are popsicle sticks, maybe a fish, a slice of pizza, the distance between your two eyes, a caterpillar, okay? You see some images over here. There's a key, some blocks, a pencil, okay? Now remember that 10 millimeters equal 1 centimeter, and that 100 centimeters equal 1 meter. So those are important numbers to remember. Now meters, they are also a metric unit for measuring length, but it's of big things, okay? So a meter equals 100 centimeters. And meters can be used to measure the length of a house or the size of a playground, how tall a tree is, how tall a building is. Okay, there's lots of big things that we can measure using a ruler. Okay, so if you wanted to measure a wall, you would use a ruler. If you wanted to measure how tall a door was, you might use a ruler. I mean, you could use centimeters, but then you'd have to make sure you had a very long ruler that had all of the centimeters that you needed, okay? So it would be easier to use a ruler, which is a meter stick. That's what I meant. Okay? So the important thing to remember is that meters are bigger than centimeters. And remember that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So we can actually just add that in. So 1 meter, and remember M is what we use for meters, equals 100 centimeters, okay? And cm is what we use for centimeters. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I just want you to say in your heads, obviously, because I can't hear you, unless you yell really loud, but that could be disruptive to your parents if they're working. What do we use to measure? Centimeters, which is cm, or meters, which is m. So what would you measure a loaf of bread? Would you use centimeters or meters? And I would use centimeters. What about your toe? Is a toe a big thing or something small? Something small, so remember when it's small, we would use centimeters. Now, a playground outside, that's a fairly big thing, so what would you use? Centimeters or meters? Meters, because it's big. What about a bridge? A bridge is another giant thing, so we would use meters. Now a spoon, we're back to having something pretty small, so we would use centimeters for that, unless it was a giant spoon for a giant, then maybe you would use meters. A crayon or a pencil or a pen, those are really small, so again, we would use centimeters. If you looked outside and you looked at the streets, okay, the width, which is from your side of the street to the other side of the street, that's pretty long, so you would use meters for that. Your nose, if you wanted to measure how long your nose was, again, it's on your face, so it's not that big, so centimeters. And then, like I said, a wall in your house, well, unless it's a very tiny, tiny wall, maybe a little like mouse built it or something, then you could use centimeters, but otherwise you're going to use meters for that, okay? So remember when we use a ruler that we need to start at 0 and we measure super, super carefully. So you can see on all of these pictures that we've lined up the end of the object with 0, and the next line that we have, okay, that is where it ends. So we've just drawn 2 lines. So the carrot is a bit tricky because it has the little grassy bit there at the top, okay? But remember, we're starting it at 0. If that was cut off, we would change where we measured, but we always start at 0. Always. Otherwise, it doesn't give us the right measurement, okay? So make sure when you're measuring that you have your ruler set at 0, okay? And you need to measure extra carefully. So if it helps you to draw lines, that's a really good idea. Drawing 2, 1 at 0, 1 at the end of your line, that's awesome. So let's practice measuring these. So this is my ruler. I'm gonna start with my pencil, and I'm gonna remember, bring it down and have it right at 0. So there we go, it's at 0, okay? And I'm gonna go back over here and see how long it is, and that looks like it's 15 centimeters, almost 16 centimeters, okay? So that's the first one. Then we do the line, so remember I'm putting it right at 0, and this is gonna be probably easier for you guys than it is for me, because you don't have to use a computer ruler. And here, it's not quite at 0, but it's still at 23. So it ends right at 23, and I've made it as close to 0 as I possibly can. Yeah, that's, I think, as close as I can get it. So 23 for the line. And then I have a little tiny P. So again, I'm gonna start it at 0 and draw a line up, and it's between 3 and 4. So I'm gonna say that it is 3 centimeters for that one, okay? So remember, you're starting at 0 on your ruler, and then you're going until the end. So make sure that you have it as close as possible. So yeah, there you go. There's at 0, and it goes just to 23, almost 23 and a half, okay? So your work for today is just going to be to finish page 68 and 70. So please do not do 69 and 71 unless you really want to do more math, but you only are handing in page 68 and 70, okay? So for the first one, you are just drawing a line to match each item on both sides. They are the same. So you need to figure out how long some of these things are, and then all you're going to do is draw a line. So if I wanted to start off with my ladybug, okay, a ladybug is pretty small, but my math book is a little bit wider. The length of a popsicle stick on a classroom window. I think that if I look here, the biggest one, about 100 centimeters, is probably going to be our class window. So you're just going to draw the line just like that, okay? You can change whichever one you think it is, but remember, think about how big the things are, and then you can kind of go from there. Next, you are going to estimate the length of this line, okay? So there's, oops. So here's your line, okay? And you are just going to figure out how long that line is in your book. Do not measure it, you are guessing, okay? Obviously, you're probably not going to guess meters for that line, but I want you to guess. And then you are going to actually measure this last line down at the bottom here, okay? So you need to measure this line for B and guess how big. Remember to make a smart guess. So I don't want you to say, oh yeah, I think it's 4,500 centimeters. That's a silly guess. I want you to make smart guesses. That's what estimating is, smart guesses. Okay, and then so for A, you're guessing the length of the line, and then for B, you are actually measuring the length of the line, okay? Now, for page 70, again, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna match the lines. So you're just matching up what it says, and then with the numbers. So you have the height of a classroom wall. the width of a hockey net, the length of a school hallway, and the height of a giraffe. So I think that a giraffe is probably going to be the tallest. So I'm going to make that one 20 meters, okay? Let's make that a little bit better. So 20 meters is what I think it could be, okay? Now remember that 20 meters is, well, 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So that would be 20 times 100, okay? Now if you're really good at math, then that would actually be 2,000 centimeters, which is pretty long, okay? Now if you think about yourself, you are probably about maybe 1.5 meters tall, maybe 2 meters just, okay? I would say closer to 1 meter, but think about your size in comparison to that of a giraffe, all right? And you can use in here the box, the quick review, to help you think about how long things are. For number 2, would you measure each item in centimeters or meters? This is where you just need to tell me if you would use cm or meters, okay? So you're just gonna write in if you would measure a flagpole in centimeters or meters. It's pretty big, so if it's big, what do you think? Probably meters. And then the length of a mouse. A mouse obviously is pretty small, so remember, small things are measured in centimeters and big things are measured in meters, okay? Once you have finished these 2 pages, send them to me on Class Dojo. And then remember that you actually need to measure your tower. So that is one of your final report jobs for your tower this week. So you will be measuring your tower to see how long it is. Now, if you want to do more math work and practice measuring, you can measure things around your house. You can guess how big they are and then measure them. You can do a game with mom and dad or your brothers and sisters or nannies or whoever, and you can say, I think this is this long, and then you could go ahead and measure it, okay? Or you could just measure different things and say how long they are. So that's another option for you. You can also play some online games. There are a few games there that are lots of fun. I tried them all out, and that helps you practice some measuring as well. Obviously, if we were in school, we would be measuring everything, but it's a bit tricky to measure at home. So as long as you have your ruler, you are good to go. You do not have to measure anything with a meter stick, so you just need a centimeter, and it doesn't have to be a proper 30 centimeter one. You should be fine with just a smaller one, maybe even 15 centimeters if it's fine, or 20 if you have that, okay? Just make sure that you measure carefully, and that's it. We will see you back here tomorrow for more math measuring.